Hi guys, Josh Lloyd here giving you your NBA first look for DraftKings for Monday. We've got 7 games coming up. Go ahead and hit that bell down below so you'll be notified of all our videos. Give it a thumbs up here as well. And why don't you drop a comment? And then let's talk about these games. The first game up, the Rockets and the Wizards. This is a back-to-back for the Wizards after they come off a big win over the Celtics on Sunday. No spread announced at this point. Russell Westbrook, it is a back-to-back, so we're just going to assume that he doesn't play. But I think there is a small chance that he does play here in this one. Of course, this is Westbrook and Wall going up against their former teams. The Wizards changed things up on Sunday. Mo Wagner was their starting center. He's at 3,200, so DraftKings has not adjusted. Therefore, everyone's going to be using Wagner. Secondly, that means Scott Brooks might dick us around. Now, normally Brooks will do it for 2 or 3 games in a row and then change his mind. So I think Wagner's going to be relatively safe, but it is Brooks, so there is a risk factor involved there. Bradley Beal's at 8,900. Now, without Russell Westbrook, I think that's a pretty good price for him. And they also made a weird move and started Garrison Matthews on the weekend. Now, Matthews didn't do a huge amount in that playing time. In fact, he had 8 DraftKings points. So that's obviously not great. But the game before he had 21. You would assume he started on the back of that. And then, he shit the bed when he started. So hard to say whether he will start, whether they'll put Avdia back in there, whether they'll go back to Bertans. But maybe at 3,600, we could have a squiz at Garrison Matthews. I do like John Wall at 7,500. There is some value in him. While DeMarcus Cousins, he's not really giving it to us. 6,200, maybe I'd use him as a flyer, but that's probably it. While 6,400 for Eric Gordon with Victor Oladipo sidelined. Gordon's playing pretty well. He's giving us 34 a night, but I'm not really sure I'm seeing the value in it. Tate and House, they're not great DFS players. Same as Rui Hachimura, who is overpriced at $5,800. The next game, it's the Bulls. It is the Pacers. TJ McConnell's at 5,200. This guy is just putting up numbers pretty consistently. He had 39 last game. He's averaging 31 over the last 10 days. Look, just big numbers, consistently getting a lot of minutes. I don't love him, but I think he's at least worth a look. Miles Turner's at 6,000. The only reason I'd entertain Turner is he goes up against the Bulls, and they can allow centers to have good games. While Wendell Carter Jr. is on the way back, and he looks like he'll be returning here. I don't like him first game back at 6,000. I do like Zach LaVine at 9,200, who's just a 40-point guy almost every single night. He's averaging 52 over his last 5 games, which is obviously very, very impressive. While Jeremy Lamb at 4,800, I think we can do a lot better than that. And Kobe White at 62 is probably priced just a bit too high. We've also seen Thad Young's value drop. He's at 6,100. I wouldn't want to use him, especially with Wendell returning. And 5,100 for Pat Williams. I don't really see the value there. You could look at Sabonis at 91. Now, that's a lot. Sabonis is probably going to be a 40-point player. He is averaging, 42 in his last 5. He dropped 45 last game. 9-1's a lot. I think there are better, cheaper options out there that are more likely to return that value than Sabonis. He could easily have 50, but he is limited usually by his lack of defensive stats. Next up, we look at the Atlanta Hawks. They're taking on the New York Knickerbockers. In this one, of course, the Hawks still have their injury concerns. The Knicks are without Mitchell Robinson, so 4,400 for Nerlens Noel. Looks pretty good to me. He played 32 minutes in the first game. He only had 23 DraftKings points, but I don't really care. I think he's still a pretty good option to use here. While Julius Randle at 87. Randle feels like he should be a $9,000 guy. He is only averaging 41 over the last 3, so I guess that's why the salary is down where it is, but I still do like him here. While Derrick Rose at 4,900, I'm not particularly involved in that, but I am liking Clint Capella at 7,400. Now, the only reason I'd be hesitant with Capella is the way the Hawks are currently using his minutes, keeping him at like 30 minutes a night, and that's having an impact. Trae Young's at 9,500. Trae has been putting up some pretty strong numbers, 45 points over the last 5. I wouldn't say he's at 100% lock, while Barrett and Quickly are guys that I'd fade. When Johnny Collins at 7,000. Collins is playing all right, but he's not even getting 35 a night. So we need more than that from Collins. So therefore, I probably would find someone else that I'd prefer at a $7,000 price point than John Collins. The Hawks are 1.5 point favorites here in this one. The next game is one that is going to be really determined, or the value is going to be really determined by the status of one player, and that's Joel Embiid. He is playing for the Philadelphia 76ers, of course, but he's questionable with a back issue, and he goes up against Rudy Gobert and the Utah Jazz. The Jazz, who are just steamrolling everyone at the moment, they're 6.5-point favorites, and the total here is 228 points. No Mike Conley for the Jazz. So Jordan Clarkson's at 5,900, and I really think Clarko at that sort of price is a really good cash play. Not sure he's got much upside, but he's great for cash. I like Don Mitchell at 8,000 as well. At point guard, he puts up much better numbers, and Rudy Gobert at 7,200 is also in a very, very good spot at that low salary. Ingles at 57, I think he's all right. I wouldn't say it's as good as those other three, but I think it's pretty good. And the 10-5 for Embiid. Now, Embiid has done well against Gobert in the past. He's averaging 53 points the last 3 times against Utah, but the back injury gives us some pause. I think we can find more value in some of these other cheaper sort of guys. Bogdanovic at 5,800, I think is overpriced somewhat, while Ben Simmons at 84 also probably on the high side. I do like Tobias Harris if Embiid is out at 7,300 to at least be a 35-point producer, and then maybe go for a little bit more on top of that. Next game, we're looking at the Cavs. They're taking on the Golden State Warriors. What once was a marquee matchup is no longer. The Warriors 8-point favorites. The total 224.5. This is a back-to-back for the Cavs. Andre Drummond rested on Sunday. I assume he'll be back. Whether he starts or what he does remains to be seen. His last 3 games have yielded 26 DraftKings points and has played under 20 minutes in 2 consecutive games. I will not be using Andre Drummond here. I will use Darius Garland at 5,500. Maybe not a huge upside there on Garlo, but pretty good floor value, while Andy Wiggins at 6,300 against his former team, I think is okay as well. I think there is some upside in him. And Steph's at 9,900. We love Steph, what he's doing at the moment. He feels like he's a 50-point guy almost every single night. And Kelly Oubre is actually producing pretty well too. He's at 6,500, Oubre is. His last couple of games, a 37-point average over the last 6, 38 points in his last game. At 6,500, I don't mind that value there for him. Draymond's probable after hurting his knee last game, while Jarrett Allen at 67. I think it's too high considering we don't know the issue with or what Drummond's going to be doing and how that rotation is going to look in this upcoming game. The Miami Heat and the LA Clippers, a back-to-back for the Clippers. Unlikely we're going to get Paul George in this one. But the big question mark, I guess, is what are we get from Kawhi Leonard? Because he sat out Sunday's game. It was going to be a back-to-back, but we're assuming that Kawhi plays back-to-backs now. But now he's out with this leg contusion. Of course, George is out too, so there could be some value opening up. We know Dragic is going to be out for the Heat again. Tyler Hero's at 58. I can do better than that. Bam Adebayo at 8,300. I think he's a pretty good option for us at that sort of price. He's relatively consistent around that 40-point mark, and Butler at 8,200 also relatively consistent around that area. Kelly Olynyk at 51, trending up at the moment. He's getting 30-plus minutes, 3 consecutive games. 26 DraftKings average is all right. While the Clippers, their their guard rotation of Lou Williams, Reggie Jackson, it all depends on what happens with Kawhi here, but I think Lou Williams at 6,400 is all right. Batum at 51 isn't particularly good, but I don't mind it. And if Kawhi is out, the 5,200 for Marcus Morris, I think comes into play a little bit more for us here. The last game of the night, we're not going to have Kevin Durant playing in that one. That's the Brooklyn Nets. They're taking on the Sacramento Kings in that last game of the night. Durant has a strained hamstring, so he's not going to be available. But they are going to welcome back DeAndre Jordan, who sat out their last game. Marvin Bagley sat out Sunday for the Kings. This is a back-to-back for them, so let's see if he's going to be ready to return. Jordan's at 4,500, and it might sound a bit sacrilegious, but I think he's actually all right to use. With Durant out, his minutes might jump up. I don't mind that. 8,800 for De'Aaron Fox. It's bordering on a bit too high, but I'm not against that. While Kyrie's at 9,000, he looks strong, but I love Jim Harden at 10,700. He's racking up triple-doubles, he's getting assists, his usage isn't high, but it actually doesn't matter. He's averaging 55 points over the last 3 games with a very low usage rate, amazingly. Harrison Barnes at 66 is too highly priced, and so is 6,500 for Tyrese Halliburton. Those guys don't really get much going for me in terms of appeal. That'll do it for me today. Guys, don't forget, subscribe to this channel, hit the thumbs up down below, hit the notification bell, and good luck building your lineups for Monday. Keep an eye on those questionable landmines. Guys, we'll see you later. Bye.